the more you grow, the more you realize that your circle becomes smaller and smaller. Every relationship becomes meaningful. You have to be around people who empowers you. So you have to really understand who you are. And when you know who you are, there is nothing you can do.
Confidence is an element. It almost seems like it's part of the ingredients to success.
I don't think anyone just have confidence naturally. When you invest yourself in learning in different abilities and talent, you build confidence. I celebrate my downs because I look at it as an opportunity that I learn something new. Every challenge that comes my way is a new experience. The growth mindset, not using where you are coming from as a distraction, as a barrier, as a hindrance, but using it as a tool to help you catapult. Because some of us, where we are coming from, is not the most pleasant place.
What has made you successful as an entrepreneur?
It's not the product, it's the...
Join us today as we sit down with a special guest. He's the award-winning founder and CEO of the Adinkra Republic luxury sock company that was featured in the GQ magazine. From Wall Street to the world of luxury fashion, AJ's story and testimony represents the true power of cultural pride, success, and innovative thinking. Please welcome Agyeman Senkyire.
Yes,
peace and power.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. Really a blessing to be here today, and truly an honor to be here on the show today.
Indeed. You know, for me, you're a very special warrior because not only did you kill it in school, not only did you excel in corporate America, but you're also an esteemed entrepreneur that merged culture with luxury fashion. I want to first ask you, what is it about your philosophy, your mindset, that allows you to be successful in so many endeavors?
Well, one thing I'll tell people is you don't have to be good at everything. You know, growing up, I was not the best in school. I didn't become the A student by choice. But one thing that I'll tell people is you have to persevere. You have to trust the process, and you have to trust the people around you, having mentors, having people around you whom you can trust for advice, for counseling, and also reading. I think one of the things that people get oftentimes the notion of is, you know, they think you are born to do something. Everything takes a process. Everything takes a learning. And I'm a true believer, not a fixed mindset, but I'm a growth mindset individual. What that means is that you have to really believe that you can adapt situations. You can learn. You have to believe in the ability to learn and to grow, right? And I think that's one of the things that differentiates people who are fixed mindset people versus growth mindset people. And that's what really has catapulted me, because I believe that, yes, I may not know it all, but I can learn. I am able to learn. I'm committed. I'm dedicated to a cause, and that's how I keep breaking through. And I think anybody can do the same thing as well.
I love that. You know, you mentioned getting wisdom from the elders or the mentors. What was the best piece of advice or wisdom that you got?
Well, I think the best piece of advice that I got growing up was from my grandmother. My grandmother always taught me that always remember where you come from. I think it's really important to understand that who you are really defines where you are going. And it brings me back to the Senkyire symbol. I think when you study history of who we are royals, black people. And I come from the Ashanti tribe. And understanding that, I know that, you know, in Ghana, we grew up with black doctors. We grew up with black lawyers. We grew up with black police officers. Everybody around you was black. And we saw a lot of black excellence. So you have to really understand who you are. And when you know who you are, there is nothing you can do, because confidence is really what's going to drive that success.
Wow. You know, you spoke about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. What's the main difference between the two, and what can people do to develop the growth mindset?
Well, in my teams, one of the things that I've learned is people who always grow, people who always excel, adapt what is called a growth mindset. And that's a great question, by the way. A fixed mindset individual believes that they are born with certain talent and wisdom. They believe that people who are thriving in certain areas are just born to thrive. Whereas a growth mindset individual believes that they can innovate, they can pivot, they have to study. It takes a lot of growing. It takes a lot of learning. It takes a lot of self-investment. It takes a lot of belief. It takes a lot of mentorship. It takes a lot of adaptability and also innovative mindset to be able to grow. So the main difference is that a fixed mindset individual is stuck in the traditional way of, you know what, I was born to do this. And because I am not good at it. Let me give you an example. My daughter will say, Daddy, I don't think I'm good at math. And I said, we can learn to be good at math, right? So a fixed mindset individual will say, I'm not good at this, and that's who I am. Whereas a growth mindset individual believes that, hey, if I learn, I can be good at it. I can thrive. I can also be just like a person who's doing really well. So that's the main difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset.
You know, you mentioned confidence, and confidence is definitely something, it's an element. It almost seems like it's part of the ingredients to success, right? As I study successful people, how did you develop such strong confidence?
Well, again, going back to a growth mindset, I think the main thing to realize is that Michael Jordan, he will shoot the ball after practice, after games, and he will be there practicing and practicing and practicing. You know, when you practice something over a period of time, when you invest yourself in learning in different abilities and talent, you build confidence. I don't think anyone just have confidence naturally. You have to invest in yourself. You have to really educate yourself. And you have to come to the terms of areas where you can thrive and areas where you know you cannot thrive, right? And I think confidence comes from the ability to gain wisdom, understanding, and also being knowledgeable. When you are knowledgeable, you develop confidence.
Yeah. You know, I really appreciate you saying that, because I think, again, along with the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, some people believe that confidence is something that they either have or they don't. So it's very relatable. And what you're saying is that confidence could be cultivated and developed. So for our audience out there, because so many people struggle with confidence, you can develop confidence.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And also surround yourself with positive-minded people. I think the more you grow, the more you realize that your circle becomes smaller and smaller, because every relationship becomes meaningful. I think you have to be around people who empowers you. You have to be around people who tells you that you can also do it. And also my belief, being a Christian, I think I believe in the true word of Philippians 4 verse 16, which is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I believe that we all have the ability to do it. You know, we all created with legs. We all created with hands. There is nothing that somebody can do that you can't do. The key here is that commitment and dedication to the cause. And you have to trust the process. But surrounding yourself with the right people would always boost your confidence.
Yeah. What are some of your habits, you know, as a man, you know, that other people can model in terms of when it comes to being successful?
Well, I think the key here is you have to create a process. Everything with a process works. Nothing happens just instantly. So whether it comes to your health, making sure that you have a process around a schedule around your health. I always say your health is your wealth. It always starts with your health. So when we talk about my success, if I'm not successful in my health, I am not going to be successful in other areas of my life, because I need my health in order to thrive in those areas. So the first thing I always do every morning, my routine, is I get up and I sit still for a second to reflect on how my day is going to look like. And I also reflect on the fact that I am awake today, and I'm thankful for that. So I wake up with a heart of gratitude. Second thing I do is I always go to the gym. Try to get 20 minutes, 15 minutes, even 10 minutes of just working out would really help you start off on a positive energy, feeling like you have already achieved something before you step into the real world. Third, no matter what comes your way, you have to keep believing. So what I do is that on my way to work, I actually listen to a lot of different messages, different podcasts, things to really rejuvenate my spirit, and also to keep me going. Every day is different. depending on the situation that comes. When you in a corporate America, you can go from 0 to 100. And I think the ability to adapt and also the ability to know that, you know what, you are heading on the right direction. You may not be able to achieve exactly what you said you were going to do, but making sure that the next day you pick up where you left off the previous day. And I think that's the key, right? Because you cannot always plan everything accordingly, but things and situations may come your way. Challenges may come your way. Look, the other day I was on my way to work and my son's school called me and said, you have to pick him up. And it disrupted my day. But I did not look at that situation and say, you know what, because of this, my day is messed up. I went home and I still had to do what I had to do. And I had to inform my stakeholders that, you know what, we're going to have the meetings virtually. So I think you have to look at situations and be adaptable. And that's the key.
Yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned fitness, which is something that I'm into. And what I tell people a lot of times is fitness and eating properly. And none of us are perfect, right? But if you are going to be a high achiever, you have to feel good. You have to have the energy. You got to have your mind sharp. And when you don't take care of your health and you're not eating properly or you're, constantly putting poisons in your body, it's going to affect your mind and your body and ultimately your performance.
And it actually even affects your energy, right? The type of energy that you give out. There are certain foods that you eat and you feel so down. I mean, it just brings you down. And there are certain foods that you eat that uplifts you. Right. So I think you have to know your body. I always say you don't have to be an expert in the gym. Just get what you need to get you in the right fitness mindset. So,
that's right.
And I think that's the key that you've mentioned.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned processes, and I love that because what that lets me know is as I see somebody like you who I admire and I'm very inspired by your journey and some of your accomplishments, that lets me know that, okay, if I can just emulate or follow the formula of his process, I may not have the exact same results, but I can benefit as well. And so it's like, I'm sure you would say that some luck is probably involved, but not just luck, because a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm just not lucky. No, you're very intentional about your day, about your process, and you created it and sort of, I would say, even structured your life around that.
What most people don't realize is that oftentimes we look at the finished product. We don't look at the ups and the downs. We know about the ups, but we don't know about the downs because the downs are oftentimes not celebrated. I celebrate my downs because I look at it as an opportunity that I learn something new. Every challenge that comes my way, it's a new experience. It's a relatable experience. It allows me to connect to certain individuals who may be going through that same opportunity, right? So early on in my career, I went through some difficult career challenges. And today I mentor almost 500 students. And I can relate to them because of some of the challenges that I went through. So when you talk about process, you have to understand that the process involves you going through challenges, not failing. You went through challenges. You fail when you quit, right? But you went through that challenge and it made you better. And that's what the word perseverance come through, right? When somebody perseveres or somebody thrives, what that means is that you've been through certain challenges and you've been able to overcome those challenges. And that's what perseverance is really about. So when we talk about these things and you look at somebody and you look at the finished product, understand that they've been on a journey that some of you would not want to be on, right? But they trusted their instinct. They trusted the end goal and they stick to it and they learn from that and they became better. And that's what I really want people to really get out there, because the process is something, not a microwave. I see young kids come from college and they want to be where you are overnight. Look, it took me 15 years of really hard work, challenges, but I never quit because I trusted the process.
Indeed. What was or is your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge for me is really trying to be the best version of myself. And what that means is, okay, my grandmother would say, AJ, every day you have a chance to write an obituary. How? I've never seen somebody at an obituary. I've never been to a funeral and seen them mention how much millions of dollars the person left behind. I try my best that every day I'll make an impact on somebody's life. Whether that impact being opening the door for somebody, putting a smile on somebody's face, helping somebody pay for a bill, helping somebody gain some wisdom, understanding. And I think when we put on that mindset, our jobs no longer become a job. It becomes a place of impact. Because every day we all get a chance to write our obituary. And I've seen a 90-year-old have an obituary with literally half a paragraph. And I've seen a 20-year-old with an obituary with literally 10 pages. What's the difference? Because an obituary is how you made somebody feel. So I think for me, I think being better means every day making an impact on somebody's life. And I think that's the challenge for me, because I always want to do the best for people. And sometimes circumstances and situations does not allow you to do that. You are in a corporate environment where, somebody may be struggling, and, as per matrix and everything else, the person have to meet certain things at a certain time, and putting the person in a position where you are actually having a tough conversation with them is not, it's not the most fun conversation to have. Right. But at the end of the day, you are doing the right thing all the time.
You mentioned that your grandmother said, never forget where you come from, and how powerful it is to reflect on that and be present with that. A lot of people from this side of the continent, this side of the world, I'll say, they're not in tune with their roots for whatever reason, right? Especially because of the transatlantic slave trade. A lot of us don't have our African heritage, true history or true knowledge. What advice or what wisdom would you say to someone who says, like, I don't have a story, I don't know where I come from, I don't have a wise grandmother to pour wisdom in me? What would you say to them, to the people who are essentially lost in this world, not really knowing where they come from, and sometimes not knowing where they're going?
Look, I'll say I'm very privileged. I grew up with my grandparents, I grew up with my aunties, my cousins, all in the same household. I grew up knowing where I came from. But for the person who is out there who may be going through that challenge of really trying to find what I call a self-identity, I'll give you one message. The first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, says, I'm African not because I was born in Africa, but Africa was born in me. I believe that first thing that you have to do is that you have to know who you are, not necessarily where you came from. Because sometimes some of us, we look at where we came from and we look at some of the things that they did and some of the challenges. They weren't the most pleasant stuff. That does not mean, it doesn't benefit me, right? You have to look at the present and say, you know what? How can I be that person that one day somebody can talk about? So you have to look at yourself as an individual, because yes, where you came from, yes, where your grandparents came from, all those things are self-inflicted things that we put in our way as barriers to really limit us from getting to our destiny. It does help sometimes because you have people that you can lean on, right? But I believe in today's age and time where the internet really exposes a lot of different things to you, where you can do a DNA test, where you can do all these DNA, what is it called? I think people take those tests to really understand where they come from and their backgrounds and their roots. And now more than ever before, people are returning back to Ghana than any other time. I think the year of return, 2019, marked the year of return, which was 200 years since slavery. And a lot of African Americans, not because they knew their great-grandparents, but because they wanted to. They were passionate about researching who they really were. So I think everybody have that chance. And once you get that information, what do you do with it? That's the most important thing. Once you get that information, what you do with it is that, hey, are you going to sit there and say, okay, I'm from, my great-great-great-great-great-grandparents are from Nigeria. Okay, what does that do to you? Yes, I'm from Ghana. What does that do to me? I think the most important thing is knowing within yourself that there's greatness within you, that, you know what, I can also do it. And going back to the same thing that I talked about, the growth mindset, not using where you are coming from as a distraction, as a barrier, as a hindrance, but using it as a tool to help you catapult. Because some of us, where we are coming from, is not the most pleasant place. And other people are also coming from a place where it's very pleasant, but then when you look at their lifestyle and how they're living, it's not a true reflection of where they're coming from. So sometimes Oftentimes, we use that as a barrier to limit ourselves from where we are going. It does not matter where you come from. My pastor will always say, the fact that you were born in an oven does not make you a bread. The fact that you were born in the hood does not make you a successful business owner. Barack Hussein Obama became the president of the United States, overcoming his color, his race, his background, because he believed in himself and he knew that there was something in him that he can offer to the world. And that's what made him successful. So looking at where you are coming from should not define, necessarily or stagnate who you are or what you are capable of doing. Use that as a way to really believe in yourself and understand where you can also be as well.
I'm so glad that you mentioned overcoming color. So you're an entrepreneur, but you're also in the corporate world, a successful man from that world. And I think that a lot of us are discouraged to enter that world. They say it's not a place for a black man. They say there's a lot of racism. They say that it's a cutthroat environment. So tell us how you were and are able to thrive in that type of environment, being a man from Ghana.
Well, that's a great point. Yes, there are challenges in the corporate world. There are also challenges even in our families. There are challenges in our churches. There are conflict and challenges in our relationships. Look, I always say this. You have to understand that even if you are surrounded with all black people, you will still have challenge. The key here is that you know what you have to offer. You know that you want to create a path for the next generation. For me, it's bigger than me. In a corporate space, it's bigger than me. If I quit on my generations. If I quit on the kid who look just like me in the hood, who want to be where I am. If I quit on the African child who's struggling on the street, pushing ties, who's eating of the gutter, right? And I'm that one person at one point, right? And if I can do it, they can also do it as well. So you have to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you have to really take it one day at a time. Dr. Martin Luther King did not quit. He knew his life was in danger. If it was just about him, he would have sat there quietly and say, you know what? I don't want to die. I want to live for my family. But he knew that the task was bigger than him. He was willing to sacrifice everything. And he's somebody that I embodies and also look up to as somebody who persevered, who overcame. And I think when you know that the price is bigger than you, I think you are able to look beyond some of the challenges every day. Where I am today, I always say this. My title would never be inherited by my children. The job does not belong to AJ and Sons. My desk would never be inherited. My office would never be inherited by my children. What would be inherited by my children is, number one, the perception that I create for them of a black man being able to overcome. Number two is the wisdom that I give to them, being able to speak positively into them. And number three, leading by example. And I think oftentimes when you understand these things, you are not influenced by the minimal things within corporate. The task is bigger than us. So many people pay the way forward for me to be where I am. And if I was to make those excuses, then what do I say about the sacrifices that those people gave to me in the first place? You look at somebody from my fraternity, Dr. John Lewis, who's a Phi Beta Sigma, and the sacrifices that he paid. When you look at people like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, when you look at people like Patrice Lumumba, these people laid their lives. So words and situations and circumstances shouldn't influence me, because where I am today is because those people paved the way for me. And I'm also paving the way for the next generation to come. What we are doing today is paving the way. We are speaking words of wisdom, and words are very powerful. So I think every day we all come through challenges and situations, but our ability to overcome those things is based on not looking at yourself as an individual person, but believing that there's a greater community that will benefit from what you are doing as well.
You mentioned that when you were younger, you didn't do too well in school and you had some struggles yourself. Where was, or what was the spark? What happened? What occurred that made you turn on to be the amazing man that you are today?
I had to learn who I am. I have to understand that I'm not an A student. I had to understand that, you know what, for me, I have to put in extra work. I had to always put in the extra work to get there. Once I understood my abilities and my potential, it clicked. Because whereas somebody may study for 2 hours, for me, I may have to study for 4 hours. But I know that. I learned my strength and my weakness. Whereas other people will struggle, and I call this situational leadership. In every situation, you will find yourself good at something that the person who may necessarily be good at biology may struggle with math. Somebody may be good at chemistry, may struggle with psychology. Somebody may be good at public speaking. That same person may be worse at science. I believe that we all have our God-given potential. Every one of us can do it. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to tap into your strength. And the areas where you know you struggle, sometimes you have to get people to do it for you, right? Or sometimes you have to invest a lot more into it. I remember very well, I will study, go to a classroom and take a test and be a B student. And I will study for 5 hours, whereas some of my friends will only study for 1 hour. We are all different, but those differences have to be celebrated, right? And I truly believe that once you learn who you are, once you understand that this area here, this particular area, this particular subject, I am not the best at it, you would invest more time. But there are certain subjects that I was a natural. When it comes to sports, I was a superstar. When it came to math, I was a superstar. When it came to science, I struggled. When it came to chemistry, I struggled. So you have to honk in on your strength. And you have to really know that there is something in you that you will thrive more than other people. Michael Jordan may not necessarily be the best mathematician, but he's good at basketball. And he honked in on that. Kobe Bryant, same thing. LeBron James, same thing. They honked in on their strength. So you have to really study yourself and ask yourself, what are my inner strength? What are some of the things that comes naturally to me? And lean towards that. You know, the way I speak now is the same way I speak at work. That's my strength. When it comes to organization, I would rather hire somebody. So in my team, I have the best organizer. In my team, I have not the most smartest person because they ask the most questions. And some of those questions really leads us to thoroughly think through situations. In my team, I have the Harvard graduates. In my team, I also have me, right, who is curious about the outcome. So you have to really surround yourself with the right kind of people and tap into their strength in the areas where you lack.
What would you say is the most important quality of a leader?
I think the most important quality of a leader is integrity and the ability to relate to people. Those two. Why am I saying this? Integrity is the bottom line of everything. When you always know that you are doing the right thing for people, it does not matter the outcome. You are not stressed out because you know you are doing the right thing. Within you, you develop confidence. When you are not doing the right thing for people, you are not confident. Number one. Number two, relatability. Somebody may not necessarily be the smartest in the room, but you can relate to them without bringing them down, without belittling the person, without letting the person feel like they are not the most smartest person. So I think those two skills, and when I talk about relatability, I even go into the networking, because that's networking. When you look at the word networking, it's a combination of two different words. The first one is a net. When a fisherman goes to the boat, they throw their net, right? They catch a lot of fish. Oftentimes, when we go for a networking event, we get a lot of business cards from people. That's the net. You threw your net and you got a lot of business cards. The other piece to the equation is the working. And that's oftentimes where some of us challenge and we struggle. Because to work means you have to put in effort, right? So yes, you got all those business cards. Yes, you got all those things, but what do you do with those things, right? So I think it's really important that a leader understands that, yes, I got your contact, but how can I tap into it? How can I make it something? How can I take that situation and tap into it to develop something big, right? And that's what every leader knows how to do really best. They are surrounded by great people because they are relatable in an aspect of networking, and they believe in doing the right thing all the time.
Wow. So your original name is a representation of an Ashanti warrior.
Right.
The Ashanti tribe itself, everybody knows. Well, let me not say everybody knows. If you know the history, the Ashantis were warriors for sure. And when we found out within this conversation that you were also born on a Warrior's Day, Dr. Huey P. Newton.
Right.
How did you overcome fear, and what wisdom can you share about overcoming fear? Because, fear holds us back, right? A lot of people, they want to do a lot of things, but they're fearful. They're fearful to take the risks or make the investments. So how does someone overcome fear?
One thing I realize is that people who are successful are not scared of fear. They are not fear to fail. They are not scared of failure. Because let me tell you something. If you have $1 and you lose $1, is it the same thing as somebody who have $1 million who lose $1 million?
Nah.
Well, for the person who only has $1, it is. Because that's all they have. But let me ask you the same question in different contexts. If you have $1 and you lose it, is it easier to replenish it than somebody who have $1 million?
I would say yes.
Yes, right? Look, when your back is against the wall, when you grew up in poverty, when you grew up not having it, you are not scared. Because guess what? What do I have to lose? And that's the mindset I tell people all the time. Play big. Because the outcome of playing big is winning big. It would take you the same amount of energy to play small. It would take you that same amount of energy to play big. So oftentimes I tell people play big and don't be scared, because guess what? You have to have faith and believe in yourself. When you have that mindset of a fixed mindset, you are scared to step outside of your realm. You only do what you know how to do. But when you have a growth mindset, and it helps you develop confidence, and confidence eliminates fear. The reason why people are fear of situations oftentimes is, number one, because of exposure. They have never been exposed to that level of success. They have never been exposed to that level of risk. Number one. Number two is because they feel that, you know what? If I lose, I can never bounce back. That is a wrong mindset. You would always learn if you lose. You learn something valuable that nobody will ever teach you. My mentor always says one thing. He said, a man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man without an experience. There is something that an experience will do to you. You can go to Harvard and get all the degrees. But when you have been through all the turns, the corners, it's not just textbook. You have actually faced certain situations. Your back have been turned against the wall and you have overcome it. You are never at the mercy of a person without that experience. So be vulnerable. Take that risk. Take bold risk. When you lose, you are not losing. The only time you lose is when you quit. But when you win, your winnings are big. And when you fail, you don't fail. You challenge yourself to come back in the game and you'll be better off. There was a gentleman that I met. He said, I don't do credit cards. And I asked him why. And the reason why he said that is because he ruined his credit before. But we all know you need credit for everything that you do. And there was two things. When he said that, three things came in mind. Number one, somebody told you credit are bad. Credit cards, don't get them. Number two, you have messed up your credit before. Or number three, you've never been exposed to it before. Right? And that's the advice that I give people all the time. Number one, don't listen to people. People will always tell you, oh, you know what? That person failed, so you are also going to fail. My worst thing that I went through in my lifetime is because I listened to certain people. Yes, that was the lowest time in my life. And I did not take certain risk and I lost big time. Don't listen to the wrong people. When somebody's going to give you an advice and it's a good advice, how you know? They'll say, you know what? What do you think about it? And they listen to you. And they try to assess where you are coming from. But the person that really hears your idea and says, you know what, that's not going to work, that's the person that you want to stay away from, right? Number two, believe in your own abilities. When you have an idea, keep it to yourself. Work on it, study it, and then contact the right people who have already done it. Don't call your cousin telling him that, you have a great idea on something that your cousin have no wisdom on. So you are tapping into the wrong people for the advice rather than tapping into the right people. And who you surround yourself with plays a very significant role. You got to always surround yourself with the right kind of people. So that's the key right there. That's why I'm never fearful. I don't live in fear at all.
It's interesting you mentioned about not listening to people because, right, doing this podcast space, and this is my second podcast, but we won't get into the history of the other one. I remember when I was just starting this one, Raw Success, I watched a video that said there's no money in podcasting, and we don't do this for the money. We do this for the impact. However, right, if we are making money, then we can create more impact. Right? It makes sense, right? I'm a grown man. I have a family. And I remember watching that video, and they said it's oversaturated. There's no money. And immediately I felt like my energy was zapped away from me. The good thing is that eventually, because like yourself, I surround myself around positive energy and I listen to audio books and I have amazing people who inspire me as well. I snapped out of it like, man, what? I don't care what he says. I'm me. They're not going to do it the way I do it. And I know my team, Lewis, he's thorough and I know what we bring. So I'm not going to listen to that. We are going to do this, win or lose, and we will win. So what you're saying, man, I actually experienced that. Yeah, listening to one little video deflated my confidence, which is crazy.
Yeah. And you got to stick to the purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, yes, you get the monetary gift. You get all those things that comes with it. I truly believe that when you stick to your purpose, you said one thing that was really interesting. You are not doing this just because of the monetary. There's so many things that you can do to get paid. Time is money. I've seen an hour, right? But because you are focused on the purpose, and the purpose is impacting a bigger community, making sure that you stay positive, encouraging somebody who may be struggling, who may be stuck in a place where they don't believe in themselves. And that's what that purpose is. And that's why you are making so much impact. And if you just focus on just that, all the other things would follow.
Indeed. So you're a successful businessman, corporate. If I saw you, I would be like, why on earth would he become an entrepreneur? Because the entrepreneur roller coaster is such a rough journey, right? You made it. So why would you be crazy enough to do that? And in addition to that, your business, your company, this amazing luxury sock brand we're going to get into, not only is it a great product, but there's an attachment of culture, of bringing awareness of history to it. So now your job is even harder because there's a cultural piece to it. And people would say that whenever there's culture added to something, it's not going to make any money. So tell us why you developed the crazy mind to become an entrepreneur. Why?
True. One day I was sitting in my office and it dawned on me that to build an empire means a legacy. Legacy goes beyond money. If you look at everybody who have built a legacy, it's not tied to monetary. Legacy is the ability to transfer something that you start to the next generation. Money can fade. Properties disrupt. People sell them all the time. Then the legacy is done. For me, I realized that my title, my corporate title, is not inherited. I cannot leave my corporate title to my children. What I can leave is this brand. What I can leave, if you look at Donald Trump, right, and you look at his legacy, the Trump Tower and the Trump brand, his kids would continue. That is a legacy. So when I think about Adinkra Republic, I said, how can I create something that when I'm not around, at least my child would not be stuck in a place where I was, which is you graduate from college and you have to go for a job hunt. At least now they have an option. I want to continue what my dad left for me, so one day I can help it grow and become bigger, or I can choose to go to corporate. I didn't have that choice. So when I think about this, it's transfer of legacy. It's a job opening. It's employment creation within our community. We don't have to really wait for somebody to employ us. How can I be in a position to employ other people who look just like me without all the barriers that they have to go through? How can I be in a place where I can give back? Remember, my brand serves three purposes. Number one is to educate people about the true, rich, and royal meanings behind the Adinkra symbols. Number two is to really inspire you behind the meanings behind the symbols, right? And last but not the least, 10% of our proceeds goes to children with autism, right? Which means that we make the colors very colorful for the children on the spectrum. So with this as the focus of the brand, it's not just about money. It's number one, to educate. Number two, to inspire you through the meanings of the symbols. And number three is to give back to the community that we serve.
Wow. I wanted to get to those three pillars and what they mean a little deeper. But first, I want to ask you, also, it's a very unique thing, because when you see people who look like us that start or get into fashion brands, they normally do a lot of the typical things. Socks, that's not typical. Ties, that's not typical. Tell us why socks and why ties, and why specifically luxury.
Well, I think when you think about the feet, it takes the most beating and oftentimes the most ignored part of our body. We think about our face more than our feet. Oftentimes when we put on the shoes, nobody thinks about your feet. It's ignored. But your feet also tells you one thing. My grandmother said, your feet should always look up to par. Because when you are looked upon, the first place people look is your feet. Your feet speaks a lot about you. Now, everywhere you are going, guess what? Your feet always takes ahead of you. So for me, I wanted to create something. As men, we don't have a lot of accessories. You know, men, you think about men, you just have your tie, your suit, you know, your little...
Wallet,
that's
maybe.
it. That's it. We're watching, that's it. I wanted something that becomes a conversation piece for men. So when you sit down and you cross your feet, somebody compliments you. It boosts your confidence. Number two, I wanted it to be colorful, to match the kids on the spectrum. If you look at the autism spectrum, it's not just one color. It's multiple color within the spectrum. So I created a brand to really align myself with kids on the spectrum. Number three, comfort. There's this notion, and also there's this lot of stereotype that anything black owned is not quality.
Right.
And for me, I wanted to change that perception. I want, when you look at yourself in the mirror, how you dress really boosts your confidence. How you dress really elevates how people see you. And I think that's the first start point. Look, whether you go into the corporate place, the corporate meeting, board meetings, you can take the Adinkra symbols with you. Whether you're wearing a traditional attire just like you have on, like your nice, everyday hip-hop attire, whatever it is that you want to call it, casual, right? You can have a piece of the culture with you, right? So I created a brand that no matter how you dressed, you may not feel comfortable wearing the African print to corporate place, but you can wear the symbols, which is backed by a meaning, which helps you stay true to whatever situation that you may be going through. I have a gentleman that called me the other day. He said, AJ, you know what? I'm wearing perseverance. There's so much that I'm going through at work, but when I saw your socks, which says perseverance, the Wawa Abba, the same symbol that was featured in Black Panther, the movie, he was reminded of how to be able to persevere, how the people of Wakanda persevered. And within the socks, it says, you know what? That perseverance symbol grows in the northern part of Ghana. It grows on a desert and it will last for 150 years and without any water. It's able to persevere every situation. And he said, AJ, the story that you mentioned to me really resonated to me as I was at work and I find myself in certain difficult situations and I was able to persevere because of the socks that I had on.
And what I appreciate about what you do, that me personally, I strive to be very intentional and purposeful about everything that I do. And so for me, what I have on, I want it to be a representation of what I represent or whatever values that I embody. So when I saw your socks, I was like, man, this is great, because I can represent. It represents me. It's meaningful. It has great meaning to it. It's attached to also a cultural perspective, me being a Black man that embraces his African heritage. And I want to get into that. And I know that's part of the educational piece. There seems to be this, I don't know if divide is too much of a strong word, but a divide between the Black man that comes from America and the continental African, the Black man that comes from the continent. And we know about the divide and conquer and things that happened during the Ma'afa, which means the transatlantic slave trade. But from a perspective of somebody that comes from Ghana, right? And you are also in tune with the quote unquote Black American.
Right.
What do you think causes that divide and stereotype between the two, right? You got the stereotype when people look at Africans, oh, they're poor, they're smelly, they're whatever people may say. And then the continental Africans may look at Black Americans, they're lazy, they're criminals. Tell us about that and how you, being in sort of in the middle, so to speak, how you're able to live during those dichotomies and merge the two worlds.
Look, we've come a long way. I think the internet have helped close and make the world smaller. And I think it's really benefited us as a community. And the reason why I'll say that is because I came here early 90s. When I came here, the first question somebody asked me, say, do you grow on trees? And I said, do I grow on trees? Do I wear clothes? I said, what do you mean? Right? And it was, I didn't have anything against him because he didn't know. But I think today with the Instagram, Twitter, X, all these platforms have made it very easy for people to get information. And I think movies that came out earlier on, Kunta Kana, all these Kunta Kinte movies, and create and portrayed, and also documentaries from the mainstream media, portrayed Africa to be this dark place. And a lot of times it really helped, it kind of suppressed people from being associated with anything African Americans. But I think over time, we've realized that there has been a shift. And that shift has been people doing their DNA test to find out where they are coming from and where they are from. And they are now learning that there's a whole world out there that we didn't know about. History books, context, does not tell us that Africa is a great place. All they portrayed to us was, look, Africans were dying, and you watch all these NGOs and they were showing kids eating off the gutter and all those things. Number one. Number two, what I also say is that in every culture, there are good people and bad people. Look, there are still people out there who still feel the same way. There are still some Africans out there who still feel the same way, who still have that belief. And I think it comes down to really exposure. You have to be exposed and education. I think when you are educated and you affiliate yourself with different people, you learn to overcome these situations. I think every culture has its own stereotype. People say Spanish people are this. People say Black people are this. People say Chinese people are this, right? And I think the most important thing is you have to educate yourself. You have to be open to different cultures, welcome different cultures, welcome different people with different backgrounds. It's only going to get you better. And what you will realize is that once you open up and you welcome people, you will realize that we have more in common than our differences. And I think the key here is that we have to really spend time investing in African American studies. And even in the early childhood, we have to bring it to our schools. We have to start teaching our kids at home. If they were not going to do it in the Board of Ed, it's not going to incorporate this thing in our curriculum. You, as a parent, have to spend time educating your child about the importance of Black history. Black history is still happening today. Believe it or not, when I talk about Black history, people think it's the past. No, Black history is what we are doing now. Black history is what LeBron James is doing. Oprah Winfrey. Black history is Barack Obama. Black history is Michelle Obama. These people are making history. And one day in our history books, they should be in there. But when they are not in there, as a parent, what do? You have to spend time really looking for the information, because there's a lot of information that we still haven't uncovered. There's a lot of history that have been hidden from our communities. And if we don't educate our children, those histories would vanish. They want to tell us that slavery was not a big deal. They want to tell us that slavery has passed and gone, but we are still reaping the repercussions of slavery today. We are still dealing with it. Economically, we are still dealing with it. Mentally, we are still dealing with it. Fundamentally, we are still dealing with it every day. So you have to spend a lot of time educating yourself. And I think education is power. And I always tell people, educate yourself. I don't argue with people. I say, this is the resource, educate yourself. Today, in today's modern day, internet makes it very easy for you to find information. Gone are those days you and I had to go to the library to get a book. Today, all you have to type it in, and thanks to AI, it will bring up a lot of information for you, right? But how much time are you investing in yourself to really learn about those things?
I'm going to tell you a quick story about me, bro. When I was in my process of getting knowledge itself, and what you're saying is so right, because I am a byproduct of everything you're saying. There's different multi-dimensions and aspects to knowledge itself. Part of the aspect of knowledge itself is knowing who you are, your lineage, your history, a long time ago, and ancestry, right?
That's right.
Ancestry DNA, that's what you were mentioning earlier, right? But there's also knowledge of who you as an individual. So there's different aspects of knowledge itself. So when I was in a process of learning who I am as far as my history, right? Sometimes, bro, I would have to take 2 buses and a train. Like, I'm from Patterson, so I would take a bus to take another bus that'll take me into New York.
Wow.
Hop on the A train, get off on 125th, just to buy some DVDs and books to learn about my history and culture, and to learn about the ancient civilizations. People like Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. Right. You understand? Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, that at the time in the 90s, he was teaching about ancient civilizations. I mean, and I could go on and on, right?
That's right.
And then come back, take the train, hop on another bus, take another bus, go home, and maybe have 2 books, some shea butter, and some incense, just to learn knowledge itself. So people don't understand, people from nowadays, like, you don't understand how easy you have it to develop yourself. You know, the era that we come from, you had to put in time, work, and resources to learn. You had to buy it. You didn't have it at the disposal of your hand. So I wanted to say that back when I was in the streets, when I was young, I was in the streets real heavy. But when I got the spark of knowledge itself, and I learned about our real history beyond slavery, that we were chemists, that we built ancient civilizations, that we also came from royalty and warriors and so much more. I was like, wow, it opened me up, and it made me realize how much the way I was living was a byproduct of a small time in history. And it was also manipulated and fabricated. You know what I mean? I don't like to say the N word, but that mentality was created. That's not who we are and who we were. And that's the power of knowledge itself. And that's the power of your brand, which is why I'm a huge fan of what you do.
And we still have to overcome a lot today.
Indeed.
You think about DEI. So many African Americans and blacks are outraged with DEI. But my question is, do we really need other people to validate our products?
Here we go.
My question is, do we really need other people to tell us how good we are? Do we have to always seek credibility or perhaps acknowledgement that we are good? No, we don't. We can create our own Black Amazon. We can create our own Black marketplace. We have the ability and the knowledge, the tool, to be able to do whatever we want to do. So when we hear DEI, when we hear all these things, they are just meant to keep us in a box. They are meant to disrupt us and tell us, oh, this is going away, so now we can't do it anymore. How about this is going away, but we are going to create our own?
There we go.
And I think we have to shift from a mindset of always looking at people outside of our race, people outside of our culture trying to really get us to a place where we want to be, where we've never had the opportunity to be there. We've never had it. So when you think about DEI and all these terms that are going on, yes, okay, in the corporate space, do we need it? Yes, it does. Makes a difference to some extent. But while it's being disrupted, what have we learned from that experience? What we have learned is not, oh, you know what, let's sit there and let this be a distraction. No. Wow. DEI was powerful. That's what they called it. We are going to create our own DEI. We are going to create our own DEI. And that's why I say, you know what, if you're a black man and you are wealthy, don't sit on your wealth. Create a platform where you can make a difference for other people. Create a place where you can employ people. Because we don't need any DEI to get to where we need to be. It was never there in the first place and we still thrived. Do you understand? So don't let the situations and the circumstances and the political arena really catapult, disrupt you or minimize what you are able to do. You have to believe in yourself. And that's one thing I tell people all the time, because I hear a lot of noise around DEI, and I say, look, did DEI really do anything for Adinkra Republic? No, it did not. I have to wake up every day and hustle. I have to wake up every day, stand by the street corner and sell my socks. I have to wake up every day looking for different podcasts to be a part of. I have to wake up every day telling my own story. I am not looking for any other group of people to give me that platform to create a story. I have to make best of what I have in front of me. And I tell this to people all the time. Don't rely on anyone. Don't let it become a distraction. Rather, focus on yourself. Focus on building a big brand. Focus on building the fundamentals, understanding how business works. You don't have to go to 4-year college to become an entrepreneur. I've seen some great entrepreneurs. As a matter of fact, most entrepreneurs did not even go to school because they believed in a skill and they honked on it. So that's one thing that I want to tell people. Focus on your craftsmanship. Don't let all the noises outside of that. And when it's good, everybody will buy into it.
Indeed, man. That's what it's all about. Self-sufficiency.
That's right.
When it comes to entrepreneurship, right? Because I know success principles are universal, but specifically your brand and developing your brand, what has made you successful as an entrepreneur?
I think when you become an entrepreneur, you realize all your weaknesses. It's not as easy as people make it seem. When you lie down when you're supposed to be working, and you're laying down, you will realize that, man, I'm lazy. It would expose everything, every being in you. It would expose all your indisciplineship. It would also expose it to all your strength. Because for me, my strength is public speaking. I love to speak to people, especially when you talk about the Adinkra symbols. That's my strength. When it comes to other things, that may not necessarily be my strength. So one of the things that it exposes you to is, number one, you cannot do it all by yourself. You would not be able to do everything by yourself. And those areas where it's not your biggest, perhaps, your biggest strength, you have to tap into other people because you can't do it all. There's no one person who have built a multi-million-dollar company who have done it alone. You start, you get believers to believe in your brand. They invest in your brand. You hire the right type of people that you need, the right talent, people who have come and proven and tested in different areas and fields to do it. And that's how you're able to grow it. So the challenge is you understanding what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And sometimes you don't even know it because you dump it into something, you think you know it, and then you realize that, man, I made the biggest boo-boo, right? But it becomes something that you learn from. So those are some of the challenges that you also face. Other things that you face is knowing what your audience like. You start an idea, you think this is a brilliant idea. I don't think any business that starts, the owner thought that it will fail. Because they had a dream, oh my God, this is so good. They are so passionate about it. They go all out into it, and they realize that, man, that idea, nobody's buying into it. It's not the product, it's the strategy. I always say this to people. You can have a great product sitting on shelves and it will never sell. And you can have the worst product on wherever it is, Shein, whatever, and it's selling. It's not the product, it's the strategy. Yes, the product, when people have a hang of it, because it's good, it will keep selling itself, but you have to also back it with the right strategy.
I love it. When it comes to our brothers and sisters in Ghana and the cultural frame and everything, right? What makes the culture successful versus if you observe here, right? So when you're coming from there, what can you say like, okay, one thing that I notice about my culture is that's missing here is this. What would that be, right? Because, I'm born and raised here, so I know nothing about Ghana and the culture. So if you can say one thing about the culture that makes it successful in comparison to here in this paradigm, what would that be?
Belonging. The word belonging. I think hip-hop was started by blacks. We still don't think it belongs to us. What do I mean by that? I think when you look at the culture of Ghana, there's nobody competing in that space. Everybody knows it's there. Here, on the other hand, hip-hop started by blacks. Everybody have tapped into it. It's a beautiful thing on one aspect, but on the other aspect, we are losing our culture to other people who are monetizing our culture. So the sense of belonging to anything has always been a struggle for African Americans. Because if you look at it from that standpoint, right, we start something, we do really good. Once it becomes a big mainstream, we start drifting away from it. They remove us from it and it becomes an American thing. We start something. You look at hip hop. We started in the hood. At first, they wouldn't accept it when hip hop started in the 70s.
They called it jungle music.
Right. They wouldn't accept it. We belonged to it. We embraced it. We built it to the point where now these big music record companies own it, and we are struggling to make sure that we can keep it within our culture.
Which is crazy because it belongs to us.
To us.
And the other thing about it is, too, that it has become weaponized.
That's right.
Against
us. Yes.
Understanding the psychology behind the subliminal messages and marketing a certain message to create a certain way of thinking. And when you create a certain way of thinking, you're creating a certain way of being. And so in addition to everything you're saying, the monetizing, the taking away the face and ownership, it also becomes a weapon against the creators.
Well, how it became the weapon against the creators is because hip hop started as a revolution. There was a message behind what those guys were spitting at that time. They were suppressed, so they had to talk about their struggles. Today, that same hip hop has now been mainstreamed, and we are talking about money and flashing our clothes and showing how degrading women can be. So something that was positively for us has been now removed from that same messaging, which was a revolution. KRS-One, those guys were talking about, speaking about the injustices that exist within our communities through hip-hop.
And embracing our African heritage.
But you look at it today and you look at hip-hop and it's become about the Rolls Royce.
Drugs.
Things. So that is how it's being used against us. So when I say belonging, when you know something belongs to you, you try your best to hold on to it, right? And I think oftentimes because of so many different influences within the United States, it gets drifted away a little bit. But we all know that hip hop have come a very long way.
Indeed.
It's come a very long way. Whether now to the point where they even consider us a genre. Back then, they wouldn't even consider it at all.
And consciousness and knowledge itself is coming back, which makes me excited because that's my favorite type of hip hop.
That's right. Kendrick Lamar and all those guys. Yeah.
And I noticed that when I did my research, you actually got and I may not get the terminology right, but you went back to Ghana and got their blessings and got certified. Is certified the right word? With the Federation of Ghana,
Yes.
to monetize from the Adinkra symbols.
Yes. So the symbols itself, right? Let me give you a little history of the symbols.
Please.
So the symbols go back 1876. That's how far back it can go. I think it traces even back. And it came about with a gentleman by the name of Nana Kwame Adinkra. He invented the symbols, and he had been said to be from Ivory Coast and Ghana. Ghana and Ivory Coast, same people, to be quite frank with you. And he lived in the Agyeman part of Ghana, which is the Ashanti region. So he invented the symbols. And he invented it as a way of communication. That's how the Ashantis communicated. So no matter what kind of mood they were in, they wear the symbols to reflect what they were going in, right? So, for example, there's a symbol for creativity. There's a symbol for unity. So when they had conflict and they wanted to resolve it, they will show up with that. There's a symbol for sorrow. When somebody passes, they wear those symbols. There's a symbol for leadership. So when the king shows up, the first symbol that was invented was called the Adinkra Hene. Hene means, in my country, it means kin. Adinkra, kin. The kin of the Adinkra symbol is the symbol of leadership, charisma, and greatness. That's the first symbol that was invented. So when the king was coming, he will wear that symbol to represent how powerful he is. When the king sits down, there's a cross sword that shows how courageous he is. That's the akofina. It's one of the symbols on my socks as well, right? When they wanted to show the ability to be creative, they will show the symbol here. And this symbol today has been westernized by people like Walmart using some of our symbols and also in your phone gallery, you will see the same symbol. Why? Because it's the symbol of creative. It wants you to be creative. It's the place where you come and be creative, right? So they wear these different symbols to represent how they felt or the kind of mood they were in. When somebody was getting married, they'll wear the Mewareo symbol. It means I shall marry you. So every one of these symbols was designed to really be a storyteller. Now, if you go back fast forward to 1957, after Ghana gained its independence, the symbols were then released to the general public. The original of these symbols are actually housed in the Buckingham Palace in England, right? When they released the symbols, now they said the symbols are free for everybody to use. Now, the Ghana government realized that places are using it for free. And in order to use it the right way, you have to go through the Ghana Folklore Board and get a certification where they say it's okay for you to use it. Do you understand? Or you pay a small little token to help support that community, that culture aspect of it, so you can actually continue to use the symbols, right? So although the symbols are free and it's being used in everywhere, buildings, parliamentarian buildings, you find them in hotels in Ghana, you find them everywhere, movies, right? The proper channel is to go through the Ghana folklore. And I actually launched the brand in Ghana because that's the birthplace of the symbols.
I love that, man. I mean, even with the launching of your brand, you did it with integrity.
That's right.
Paying homage and respect to the foundation.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I love that first part of education. And thank you for, educating us on the history behind it. Now, I noticed that that's important for your company. Why is that so important for your company?
Well, I think when people know your brand, when people understand the purpose behind anything, the why behind anything, they tap into it. My brand is not just clothing. It's a community. It's a space that inspires you. It's a place for the next kid growing up to know that these symbols belong to them. If I don't use these symbols, somebody else will. And they'll sell it right back to us. Right? So it is really important that I tell the story behind the brand, because the story is really what made me start this in the first place. Growing up with my grandmother, she would always sit me down and educate me about the Adinkra symbols. I grew up in a palace where the symbols were prevalent on every wall. They were shown on every wall. My grandparents will always wear clothes with the symbols in there. If you look at Ghana right now and you look at royals, you see them with the symbols. And it's because every one of these symbols hold a deep history behind it. And oftentimes they'll stamp the symbols on their clothing to really represent how they feel and what was going on, the environment, the climax, right? So taking these symbols and putting them and modernizing them and bridging the bridge between the traditional and the modern is the key. So a kid who's growing up right here in New Jersey does not feel like, you know what, I don't have an African attire, so I don't belong. No, you can wear socks to still connect to your roots. You can still wear ties to connect to your roots. You can wear pocket square to connect to your roots. You can wear cufflinks to connect to your roots. No matter what you have, when you have a piece of the culture with you.
And you know what I like about it too is that, so me being someone with knowledge itself, right? You may not know it, right? If I'm walking around, but if I walk, right, and I'm walking past you, I don't know you, and I see the Agyeman on your tie, I'm going to stop you and be like, peace, brother. Because I already know you're in tune like me.
That's right.
So it's almost like a message, a really discreet little hidden symbol message.
That's right.
For me. I was like, oh, okay. Yo, wait, hold up. I see the Sankofa. Wait a minute. Peace, bro. You know, so it's like you said, it's a conversation starter.
Right.
But it also, for me, as someone with knowledge itself, it's a unifier. I already know you and I are on the same frequency.
That's right. And for me, you know, I remember very well, I'm a socks junkie, even before I started a socks brand. So people always compliment me on my socks. I had anything from pizza, you know, Roblox, anything that you can think of was on my socks. And people always compliment me, but they always stopped with just a thank you. I wanted something that was a conversation piece. And that's why it took me back to growing up with my grandparents and them educating me about the symbols. And I said, how can I take these symbols and educate the world about the meanings behind the symbols? A place where we can connect and have a conversation and find something to educate people on it, right? And what best way as men, and the socks is unisex, by the way. It started as a man, and then the lady said, AJ, we need these socks, and I changed them all to become unisex. So right now, the socks are unisex. We use the best quality products. We use 80% comb cotton, 15% nylon, and 5% spandex. Our colors do not fade. We pick every color scheme for a particular reason. Black History Month, we have the Sankofa socks here with all the different color scheme. Earlier on, I know we were talking about that. Mm-hmm. And everything that we do is very intentional.
Yeah. And you know what's great about it too, that it'll take somebody who may not know about their history, right? And you are representing a positive aspect, and me, someone who's attracted to the warrior aspect of things, it'll let me know, like, wow, there's science that's coming out of Ghana, you know. And this is why it's so important what you're doing. It's in a way revolutionary.
Yes, it is,
because it's connecting us on a subliminal and a conscious level to our roots. And not just connecting us, but at the same time, allowing us, or making the space, I should say, making the space for us to be proud, because those are strong symbols.
They are. And I think what goes beyond even the symbols is if you look at our packaging, right? Because again, going back to the notion of, you know, black
Homeboy,
things and that,
out of the trunk.
Right.
Low budget.
We focus on the details, on everything. Yeah. And true, look at our packaging. I mean, we picked all the symbols, handpicked the symbols, and we put them on the packaging. And we made it in a way that you can get as a gift. It's presentable. It speaks on the reflection of the royals that we are.
Yes.
Anything royal is luxury. And as such, we had to do everything intentionally. If you look behind the socks, we were very intentional about the design. You will notice that these lines do not meet on the same path, right? And it's because you came from a different path and I came from a different path. But that's history that brings us together. Everything that we do has been made very intentionally to really fit the brand. And that's details that oftentimes people don't even focus on. Because somebody asked me, why is it that the one path is different? And I said, we come from different paths, but we connect.
That's beautiful, brother. Wow. So my favorite Adinkra symbols is the Sankofa and the Agyeman, the warrior horn.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What's your two favorite?
That's hard. That's hard. I get that question all the time. I love the symbols. It's really hard for me to say one that is my favorite. Now, however, I'll tell you the one that, because of the season that we are in, and my favorites change all the time, to be quite frank with you. The season that we are in, my favorite pair is the one that is called Sapo. Sapo means the symbol of justice. That socks have a quote on there. That's my favorite quote of all time. It says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Right? Those socks were designed with Coretta Scott King sorority, AKA. Right? And when I think about that message, it really resonates with me based on the times that we are in. We are in a time where I feel like our justice systems are being broken, where everything is being compromised. And I think we have to use our voices to stand up for what is right. We have to make sure that the political system knows that we, the people, still make the country the way it is, right? So in the times that we are in, that is my favorite. Now, you may say, AJ, what other times may you be in? I may feel spiritually connected to my roots, and I may pick the Sankofa symbol. I may be going through some tough challenges, and I may pick the Wawa Aba, which is the one that means perseverance. So for me, it depends on the situation that I find myself in and which socks really speaks to me. I'll be honest with you, when most people come to my table when I'm doing pop-ups, I look at their spirit and I'm able to give them the socks that works for them. And oftentimes they are shocked that I picked those socks for them. Before they even open their mouth, I said, this, and that. And I believe that the ancestors are speaking to all of us.
If I came to your table, what socks or what symbol I should say would you offer me?
I think one, you'd mentioned it. I would have definitely give you the Sankofa symbol. The other one that I'll also give you is Funtu Funifu Denchem Funifu. Now, that word is a very powerful word. Denchem means the crocodile, right? Funtu Funifu means things are not aligned. If you look at that symbol, it's two crocodiles that cross path. Crocodiles, gators, they don't cross path, right? But when they do, they form something very unique. I think you love unity. You're a man of unity. You like unity. And that symbol is democracy in unity, right? And the other one that I think comes into mind when I think about you is Katechie Atiku, right? When the king of the Ashanti was captured, the warriors that went to rescue him wore a symbol behind their back of their head to show that they were warriors. That symbol is the symbol of courage, heroism, and valor. And when I think about you and your story, you have been able to persevere. You have overcome. And I think you are a hero for most people in your community because of who you are and the messaging that you are resonating. So it's the cross shields that goes like that. And the other one is the one that looks like the warrior's back hair. And those are the two you are always. And in Ghana, they say Katechie means a gentleman, right? A strong, brave man. A brave man is Katechie Atiku. So Katechie Atiku is the one that I think would resonate with you. And I have that one as well.
Wow, brother. Ashe, thank you for seeing me for who I am, my brother.
Anytime.
As I start to land the plane, I like to say, I have a few more questions. But before I ask those questions, I want you to flex. I mean, you're an award-winning founder and CEO. So I want you to flex a little bit about some of your accomplishments that your brand has accomplished.
Well, I think...
Or you as an individual.
We've come a long way. Like any other brand, you always thrive on doing the right thing for people. And I think I always said that. When you do the right thing, when you bring people quality, when your customer experience is right, when your mailing and delivery is intact, when your product is right, when your packaging is right, people will always tap into your product. And I think some of the things that we've been able to successfully do is not just about us giving back to the community that we serve. 10% of our proceeds goes to children with autism. Not only that, we also help renovate schools in a place in Ghana called Osu, Nima, right? Where kids are literally learning from roofs with holes in them. And we went to that school through Africa Everything, which I serve on the board, and we renovated that whole school. And I think when you are doing those little things, you may think somebody's not watching. There's always somebody watching what you're doing. So keep doing it. And in the right time, somebody will come and tap you on the back. Those are some of the things that we get. We've had the mayor give us an award. That time he was the Brooklyn borough president. he gave us an outstanding, he gave 10 individuals in the whole United States an award. And we happen to be one of them for our contribution towards the community around giving back and building and renovating schools in Ghana. Recently, every holiday season, we support the particular area in Ghana called Kwewuobo, where the kids are given, you think about some of these kids and coming from such hardship, and being able to give them clothes, serving them food, basic water, soda, things that we take for granted here. We go and we give them books, we give them backpacks, we give them clothing, we give them food, and so they can also enjoy the holiday spirit. And that's my story. I came from those places, so I can relate to those kids. And when you think about it here, we go to schools, we volunteer time, talking about, inspiring kids who may come from the hood and telling them that, look, the fact that you were born in an oven does not make you a bread. The fact that you are born in this condition does not mean you have to stay in it forever. You can also elevate. That's the condition that I was born in. I grew up in Seaview Projects in Brooklyn. I grew up in Arlenville. I grew up in very difficult, challenging situations. And because of those situations, because of those experiences, some people will look at it and say, you know what? These experiences is who I am. This is where I belong. I looked at those situations and I was able to elevate just so one day I can come back and inspire those kids in those communities that you are a reflection of me. You can be exactly where I am because I can relate to you. I lived in apartment 4A. I lived in there when I was jumped. I remember when I was raised back then when there were gangs, Crips, Bloods. I remember those days, right? And that can be your story as well. The fact that you are born into this situation does not mean you cannot change it. You have a unique ability to change it and pay the way forward by sharing your stories with other people as well.
For anyone who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, for anyone who is thinking about developing a brand, what words of wisdom would you offer them?
If you thought about it, you are bold. You can do it. Those people who don't want to be entrepreneurs don't think about it. Look, it's not a lot of us out there. How I see it is this way. An entrepreneur is the root of the tree. The trunk are the senior managers. The employees make the leaves. When the wind blows, the first person to run out of the house is who? The leaves. That's your employees when the wind blows. And then the branches fall off. The supervisors. And then oftentimes, it may be the trunk that cracks, but the roots are always in. You have to understand that when you are an entrepreneur, other people's life depend on your hand. That's how they feed their families. And it's not for everyone. But when you've thought about it, it means there's something inside of you that is wakening you up because not everybody thinks about it. The fact that you thought about it means there's an inner spirit that is connecting you to your destiny. And it may not be easy. You may not know it all. I tell this to people all the time. I started a socks brand with two types of socks. That's all. And I did not know what I was getting myself into. You would evolve. People will give you feedback along the way. Those feedback is what is going to help you craft the product that you have today. Right? So it's okay to make mistakes. Smaller mistakes can be fixed. Bigger mistakes later on cost you bigger problems. So it's okay to be vulnerable. Make mistakes. That's how you will learn. Because the fact that you are thinking about it means you have something inside of you that can make you a very successful entrepreneur. It's not for everyone. There are people who don't even think about it. There are people who would not even dream about it. There are people who are not passionate about it. But the fact that you are thinking about it means there's something inside of you.
One of the plagues that I see in our communities, especially the type of communities that you and I come from, is the divide of the homes. What message specifically do you have for men?
I think we have to understand that when a home is divided, I came from a very divided home. I grew up with my mother. That's all I knew. Like, my dad was around, but my mom was the one that I grew up with. And I understand the challenges that I had to go through. And oftentimes we don't think about that impact. Look, you may not necessarily be with your wife, your spouse, but be involved in your children's lives. That's the most important thing. Look, things don't work out. Relationships don't work out. You shouldn't stay in an abusive relationship if it's not working. But your child shouldn't be a victim of what you are going through. The reason being is because as a child, like my grandmother will always say, a child is like a stick on fire. You constantly have to tap and turn it. If you leave it sitting there, it will burn. Some of the mistakes that I made in my life, I wish I had a dad in my life to tell me, AJ, the path that you are on is just not the right path. Some of the places that I was going, it took me to make big mistakes to realize the situation that I find myself in. But the fact that you don't have that, your dad may not be in existence, does not mean that you cannot be successful. It's called mentorship. And when I realized the impact of mentorship, I realized that I have so many fathers in my life. Because guess what? It takes a certain human being to be a mentee. Number one, you have to understand how to take feedback. You have to understand that your mentor will say certain things to you that you don't want to hear. You have to understand that your mentor may not necessarily be invested in mentoring you as much as you would like to be mentored. You have to understand that your mentor success is directly tied to your success. What do I mean by that? I didn't have a dad. To learn how to tie a tie, my first time was on YouTube. I had to learn. I learned from somebody else who showed how to knock a tie. To learn where to buy suits, you may not know. But we are in an age and time where you cannot make an excuse. Why? Because information is on your fingertips. So, develop some mentorship. But for the father out there, if you can, as much as possible, be involved in your child's life. It is a curse. It's a generational curse to not be involved in your child's life. And to the mothers out there who are struggling and trying to make ends meet, don't give up. Because it's not going to be easy. Life is not meant to be easy. Life, the fun and the passion about life is because of the challenges that we go through every day. Because it helps you tell a story and realize how far you've come. But when you're young in that situation, you don't look at it that way. So embrace every moment. Don't let that situation bring you down. Rather, turn it around and become the person that overcame that situation. So I would say, fathers, let's hold ourselves strong because so many things are on our tables. Now, in today's time, back in the day, fathers have to do everything. You have to be a father. You have to do laundry. You have to cook. You have to be adaptable. And there's nothing wrong with that. And at the same time, you also have to realize that the responsibility is bigger than just you. You are creating a space for your next generation. And you have to break that boundary. You have to overcome it. But you have to keep your eyes on that child and raising the child the way they ought to come. And use your wisdom and understanding to help that child through some of the challenges that you went through, elevate and become a better person than who you are.
Ashe, what's your favorite book and why?
Oh gosh, that have changed a lot recently.
Same for me. I know what you mean.
I have a lot of books that I like. But my favorite one, this question I get all the time, but it may seem like it's crazy. I like the Bible. There's a lot of wisdom that oftentimes are overlooked because we don't read. And the Bible is a guide. I always say that to people. It's just a guide. It's how you use it. So lack of understanding of the Bible may make you do things that are crazy. I know Christians who don't even talk to other people in other circles because they just quote unquote Christians. So when I read it, I interpret it in a way that it makes impact on my life. And the reason why I picked that book specifically is because it cuts across all situations and circumstances that you find yourself. I can say, the power of success, this, that. But that may not be what I'm looking for in that particular moment that I'm in. I think the Bible touches on every aspect of your life. Parenting, it talks about it. It talks about success. The book of Proverbs talks about wisdom. The book of Psalms talks about being an overcomer. I think every piece that you find yourself, there's something in the Bible that helps you overcome. So I would say the Bible is my favorite book.
100 years from now, they're reading your eulogy. What would you like your legacy to be?
I think if I was to look 100 years from now, I would say that at least I moved the needle. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't the most successful. But I left the next generation with a better chance to be better people than how I started. And I think that's the most important thing in life. How are you doing your best? I put it in this way. A baton race. Really. When you got in the race, there were people who were way ahead of you. There are those who come and says, I want to win the race. I want to overcome everybody and win the race. There are those who come who says, I want to close the gap as much as possible. So when I hand that baton to the next person, hopefully they can win the race. And there are those who don't jump in the race at all. Which one are you? I think for me, I'm the one trying to close the gap as much as possible. I don't want to put too much stress on myself in life. Life is too short. If closing that gap means, look, I started off with $1 and I left my kids with $20. For somebody may look at it and say, only $20, that's all you got? But knowing where I came from and knowing where I am, I think it's really important that I pat myself in the back. That's why I don't look 100 years from now. I look at right now. If my kids, if my friends, if my neighbors was to look at me, today snowed. I cut my driveway and I went to my neighbor's driveway and I cut my neighbor's driveway. And they came out and said, wow, that's the legacy that I'm making every day. Focus on today. I think when you just focus on today, I've met so many people along the line of my journey who tell me things that I don't even remember doing for them. I've met so many people. And I started off with Big Brother, Big Sister program when I was in college. I've done mentorship through All Stars program as well. Currently, I sit as a board, Black Organization for Leadership Development at JP Morgan Chase. I'm a co-chair. I'm doing little things. It's the little things that you do that is going to add up to the later on. I think oftentimes when we look too far ahead, we overstep our boundaries. We get to a place of competition. Just focus on just doing the right thing for your neighbor every day, one day at a time. Today was very hard for me to come here, but I said, you know what, for True, I'm going to come and support the audience because the cause is bigger than just him. It's bigger than me. There's a child out there. There's a young adult somewhere. And this podcast is making a tremendous difference in your life. You may be in a situation where you find yourself stuck in a position where you don't think it's never going to happen. How can I be like AJ? Look, you can be just like me and even beyond me. I want you to be better than me. But how you get there is you have to stay true to your course. You have to stay dedicated. You have to stay committed and believe in yourself. Because if you believe in yourself, you invest in yourself. Anyone that believes in anything, I work in Wall Street, no investor ever believes in a product that they don't believe in. When you believe in yourself, you invest in yourself.
Powerful, powerful. How can they find you? How can they purchase these amazing products? Your socks, your ties. Tell the world how to find you.
Well, number one, we are on Instagram. Adinkra Republic. ADINKRA Republic. On Instagram. On the World Wide Web, we are on www.adinkrarepublic.com. And on TikTok, they forced me to get on TikTok. We are on Adinkra Republic, same thing as Instagram. On all social media platforms, Adinkra Republic. Even on Facebook, Adinkra Republic. You can also message us, whatever ways. All the platforms we are on there. We also constantly have shows. So this month, we have something coming up with Harlem Fashion Week in Harlem. We also have something coming up on 6 March. We're going to be with a group doing a 6 March event in New York City. And also on the same 6 March, we will be raising the flag with the mayor of New York City through the Ghana African Cultural Affairs. We'll be raising a flag to commemorate our independence. So I'm everywhere. You know, if you go on social media, you message us, you will definitely be messaging me. I'll be responding. I take pride and passion in responding to our clients. So again, thank you so much for believing in us, for believing in the Black-owned products, and not only that, for believing in something that is impactful to our community. So thank you.
Indeed. Listen, brother, it's been an honor. And I want to say that to me, in my eyes, and I'm telling you as someone that comes from the movement, my brother, somebody that got knowledge of self as a teenager and has been around some greats, to me, you are a revolutionary. You are the embodiment of what we believe in, bro. And the beautiful thing is that you actually have added something that I think many of us from the golden era, I'll say for lack of a better word, were missing, which is the economic part. Because you can't have no real movement without resources. And you are also adding that. So I want to say that I really appreciate you and what you represent, because I am a reflection of your socks. This sock here, it has the Sankofa symbol. It has the red, black, and green. And some of your socks, what I love about it has an African symbol and then a Black American, quote unquote, quote.
That's right.
So that is the unification.
That's right.
So, you know, I just love what your socks, they're comfortable. I mean, just everything about what you represent, your integrity, your excellence, your purpose and your meaning and your movement, my brother, like truly, truly honored. And I appreciate you for coming on the Raw Success Podcast.
Hey, True. You know what? Not many people will allow people in this space, but you are making such a significant impact that sometimes you don't realize it. I always say the tongue is a powerful thing. So anytime it speaks, it's always make impact in people's lives. And having us on this show is truly an honor. It really means everything to me. And I wouldn't have missed this for nothing. I said, you know what? I will find a way to come. And I'm so glad I came to speak to you and your audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for hearing my story. And True, thank you so much for having us. We are truly grateful.
Indeed. Listen, if you know, thank you, King. If you know any entrepreneurs, anybody that can benefit from this message, he drops so much wisdom from a cultural awareness to personal development to success gems. Share this episode with them. And don't forget to subscribe and press that like button. Peace and power. Thank you for coming, bro.
All right. Anytime.
Love and
Thank you
strength.
so much. Appreciate it.